All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us. We got the golf guru Dennis Silvers in studio. Ken Thompson just walks in the studio, and he says to me, hey, I just got a text from the PD. I got to fill in for you guys. I got to do 4 hours next week. That was actually kind of funny. Ken's a funny guy.
He is a funny guy.
Yeah, he is a funny
guy. Good guy.
He
good
is.
guy.
Well, we got another good guy on the line right now. I've been friends with him for over a decade, long time.
That's your problem.
Yes, well, it is. Well, it's his problem. He has to be friends with me. But anyway, he does a great job.
It's actually a very, very big issue.
All right,
it's not easy to do.
Let me introduce him at least before you guys start taking more shots at me. He works for Channel 3. He does a great job as the lead anchor over there at 3. Does a great job covering the Knights, the Rebels, and more. My friend Bryan Salmond joining us. Brian, thanks so much for coming on. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm absorbing a few bullets, but it's all good.
Yeah, well, trust me, I've been absorbing some bullets the last 90 minutes too with some of our callers. That's all right. Trust me.
It's been a very sensitive Friday, Brian.
Yes,
very sensitive.
Very sensitive.
Yeah. Hey, Brian, you're not sensitive, are you? It's Dennis. You're not sensitive, are you, brother?
I can't be and deal with this guy. Nah, man. I get it like I say. It's all good.
That's true. All right. Well, let's get to a non-sensitive subject. It is UNLV basketball. Brian, you and I, we discuss it on social media. We debate it all the time. And I looked at a lot of different rankings of top 10 coaches that are on the hot seat, and Marvin Menzies is ranked 4th or 3rd on a lot of these lists. What do you make of that? And why? Give me the argument or the debate of why you think Marvin Menzies, no matter what happens for the next month, he should come back next year.
Well, first of all, no matter what happens, I've never said no matter what happens. If they lost the last, how many games do they have? 10 games left or whatever it is?
Less.
Then, what's that?
Less than that.
Okay, yeah. If they lost every game to end the end the season, then you would have to look at things. But as it stands right now, the teams have gotten better each year. The first year, they won, was it like 9, 11 games or whatever it was? They won 20 games the next year. They won 8 games in conference last year. They're sitting at 7 right now with a chance to have 8. They still have, 5 or so games left in conference. So if you look at it in that respect, they've gotten better. But to your point, the question that you asked, as far as like him being on the hot seat and the list of the different teams that you sent me earlier, number one was Arizona. Sorry about that. My daughter's in the background.
That's okay.
Number one was Arizona, Sean Miller. Okay, comparing Marvin Menzies to Sean Miller, that's, just throw that out. Like, that doesn't make any sense because, Marvin Menzies he hasn't fired coaches for being under investigation for breaking the law. So
he's also not winning, but he's also not winning games. If he was winning games, I guarantee you he wouldn't be on that list.
Yes, he would be. I mean,
no, he wouldn't.
What are you talking about?
No, he wouldn't.
Okay. So
he's not having a good year. They're losing games, Brian. Let's call it what it is.
You cannot compare what Sean Miller is doing and the reason why he's on.
You know why I can? You know why I can? You know why I can't? Because both coaches are underachieving and they're not getting the maximum out of the talent that they have.
That's not why he's on the hot list. That's not why he's on the hot list.
That's certainly part of it.
Because the biggest part of it is the fact that he's got coaches that have been indicted. He's fired how many coaches? Like, come on, like Sean Miller. That's not a comparison. The next coach that you had, Nebraska.
Miles, who's also underachieving.
Okay, how long has he been a coach at that school?
How long was he going to coach at that school?
No, how long has he been a coach at that school?
I think he's been there for 5 years.
Yeah, he was at Colorado State, and he did a decent job at Colorado State. That's when they hired him.
He actually started out very strong.
So he's been there 5 years. So how do you – he's had an opportunity to coach the guys.
I'll tell you why.
Opportunity to coach the players that he's had.
I'll tell you the difference. The first couple of years he was there, he won games. He did a very good job there the first couple of years.
It doesn't matter what you do the first couple of years. You're playing with somebody else's players.
It does matter what players. It does matter what you do.
With someone else's players.
So how do you explain last year then with Marvin Menzies? Those were all his players. Explain that.
You asked me about that. And I told you last year was an underachieving year. I think last year they didn't do so well. But I've explained
that's an understatement.
You put 5 guys on the court that have never played together, and you expect them to do what?
I expect them, with the talent that they have, having the best recruiting class in the Mountain West Conference, I expect them to not finish at the bottom and play in the play-in game. That's what I expect.
Well, see, that's someone who would. I would say if you know basketball,
which I do.
Well, you do, but you say stuff that doesn't make any sense.
What doesn't make sense?
If you have a starting 5 that has never played together, chemistry is a real thing.
Yeah, ask Calipari how that's worked out for him in his career. Let's use that excuse for John Calipari or Mike Krzyzewski.
Let's compare John Calipari and the NBA talent that he has with Marvin Menzies.
Well, I'll tell you what, UNLV is one of. I'll tell you what, UNLV is one of the winningest programs in college basketball history. So I'm going to give them high expectations. Yes, I am.
You're comparing John Calipari's roster with All-Americans and
No,
NBA players.
I'm comparing what a really good basketball coach is to a not a really good basketball coach. That's what I'm doing.
You're comparing John Calipari with Marvin Menzies. Anyone who says that Marvin
They're
Menzies
both
is equal
D1 college basketball coaches.
He is not equal to Calipari.
Yeah, well, no crap.
He's not
That's
equal.
obvious.
Exactly.
Obvious.
So why bring him up?
Because I'm trying to show you, because you're trying to talk about guys that have never played with each other and a young team, and I'm trying to tell you there are plenty of coaches out there. Let me.
No, you didn't say plenty of coaches. You said John Calipari.
Okay, I'll give you another one. Okay, let's go with the Oregon. Hold on. Okay, fine. Let's go with the Oregon Ducks last year. They had one senior on the team. They had a bunch of freshmen and sophomores. Do you know what their record was? They finished at 23-13, and the Pac-12 was really good last year, or at least a lot better than it was this year.
No, they weren't.
Okay, well,
it
was better than the Mountain West Conference. It was better than the.
Hold on. First of all, the Pac-12 has been bad for a number of years.
What conference was better last year, the Pac-12 or the Mountain West Conference?
They're both bad. What does that matter?
Well, Oregon.
Okay, so they won 3 more games. They won 3 more games than UNLV.
Oregon was 23-13. Okay, 10-8 in the Pac-12. What about Ohio State? They were ranked 17th in the country at the end of the year. They had one senior in that team, 7 freshmen and a few juniors.
The question is, you say one senior. The question is, if you have juniors and sophomores.
Yeah, go ahead. We're listening.
If you have juniors and sophomores on that team that have played together, if they play together, that's completely different. Hold on, that's completely different than taking 5 guys that have never played together, have never been on that team, and put them together and expect them to do well and expect them to have chemistry.
All right, so we've
apples and apples.
Okay, well, you always talk about how young the team is, so let's just now push that aside because now you're talking about something completely different. Well, 5 guys that have never played with each other before. Which one is it?
Last year.
Which one is it?
You asked about last year. Stop jumping from subject to subject, and I'll figure.
So you want to use the excuse last year of a team that had the best recruiting class in the Mountain West Conference. They lost their last 5 games of the year. They lost in the first round of the Mountain West Conference tournament after being in the playing game. And you want to use the excuse of, well, those were guys that never played with each other before. Really?
You asked me about last year, and I tell you, listen, last year they didn't play as well as they should have played. I completely agree with that. However, you try to dismiss the fact that you got 5 guys that never played together, a number of the guys that never played on that team together, and you expect them to be Kentucky.
All right, well, let's let JD respond. Go ahead, JD.
Hey, Brian, veteran, seniority, veteran rosters aside, whatever. What are your thoughts on the absolute lack thereof of home attendance this year at the games?
That's Marvin Menzies' fault. It's terrible. It's terrible. Who can defend the fact that they get no crowd?
I would put you can't put. I'm not going to put all the responsibility on Marvin Menzies, but you're damn right. I'm going to put some of the responsibility on him. How could you not?
Why is he also the marketing manager as well?
He's the guy that is the coach of.
Why do they give tickets away to high school?
I'm telling you. Well, what does he do in the community? Can you tell us that? Because when Lon Kruger was here, he did a lot of stuff in the community. What does Marvin Menzies do in the community?
I'm not his agent. You're asking.
Well, I know you're not his agent, but I'm asking you. You're defending him.
You asked me about coaching.
What does that's part of being a head coach is also being a part of the community. Lon Kruger did so much for this community, and he still does. I'm asking you a very basic question. You work for Channel 3. You do a great job over there at 3. You've interviewed Marvin Menzies a number of times. What does Marvin Menzies do? How does he get out there in the community, and how does he connect with the UNLV fans? Please tell me.
I don't know. But if you could tell me everything that Lon Kruger did, tell me everything that Dave Rice did.
Well, first of all, okay, let's start with Lon Kruger.
I have no idea.
Okay, well, I do. First of all, let's start with Lon Kruger. He started the Coaches versus Cancer. He raised money for charity and he saved lives. He also was able to raise a lot of money to bring us the Mendenhall Center, which is arguably one of the best college basketball training facilities in the country. He got out there, and I'll tell you one other thing. He treated the media a hell of a lot better. In fact, every single year he invited the media to scrimmage with the UNLV players. Has Marvin Menzies done anything like that to connect with the media? Has he done anything like that?
Okay, he's been here 2 years.
He's been here 2.5 years.
Okay, so first of all,
that's your
excuse.
Want him
to be the best coach ever.
No, didn't say that. Nope, didn't say that.
I can't defend what he does in the community. First of all, I don't care. I don't care if you're asking about his coaching.
That's part of being a head coach.
No, what's that?
That's part of being a head coach. I mean, I'm sorry, Bryan. I mean, yeah, winning and losing is a huge part of it, but you also have to get out into the community. And when you say you don't care, I guarantee you a lot of those fans. Don't. Well, I guarantee you a lot of those fans care, and that's why they're not showing up to games. So it's a part of it, man.
Bryan. First, now you're in the minds of all the fans. They don't show up because they're not in the community. Really?
Oh, there are plenty of fans that
show up.
Look, I'm not getting into their minds. We get them to call into our show every day, and they tell us the same thing. They don't connect with Marvin Menzies.
Games, they'll show up.
Which he's not doing.
That's period.
Which he's not doing. Which he's not doing. Which he's not doing.
Or if they lose games by 3-5 instead of by 17.
That's also a good point.
I love this is the thing that kills me about this. Okay, they've lost games. They're better than they were last year. They've already done more than they've done last year in the last 2 years. But each win that they have, you have something to talk, not you personally, Jason, but Bryan, you have something negative to say about the win. You have something negative to say about the losses.
Have they beaten a top 100 team?
What he does, you have a problem with it.
Bryan, are you aware of this stat? Marvin Menzies' record against top 100 opponents since he started at UNLV is 3-28.
Yes, is that good? That's not good. No, his record against the top 25 since he's been there is 1-3. How does that look?
Not too good either. Not too good either.
No, but it looks a lot better than 3-28.
I mean, Bryan, come on, man.
That's 8%.
That's not good.
That means he loses 92% of his games against top 100 opponents. This is UNLV. UNLV is one of probably 15 programs in the last 50 years that has actually won a national championship in college basketball.
So Jason, tell me this. He's supposed to win these games with what team? With a bunch of freshmen?
No, hey, I agree. I agree. He does have injuries. Juicin went down. Dembele went down. The team is young, and there is a lot of talent. I agree with that. My biggest problem with Menzies is the fact that he makes a lot of excuses to justify his losses, Bryan.
Like the whole, because Bryan loves to bring up the crowd thing, because what he tells the media, another thing that I could care less about, what a coach tells the media and what he tells his team is not going to always be
You are so wrong, and I'm going to give you I'm going to give you a perfect example of why what you're saying is not correct. When they played Nevada, they were down 22 points at the half. They were getting destroyed, okay? In the second half, Nevada took the foot off the brakes a little bit. UNLV made some shots, but they didn't make any adjustments there. I was there. I was right at the game. Nevada just took their foot off the brake and tried to limit the possessions. UNLV outscored them by 5 points. They still lost the game by 17. After the game, Amari Hardy comes into the media room, and Amari Hardy talks about how they outscored them by 5, and it should have been 8 if Caleb didn't hit that 3 with 30 seconds to go. Marvin Menzies comes in there a minute later, and he says the same thing, and he says, we are for those little small moral victories, and then he talks about how he outscored them in the second half. There are very few coaches in the country that would have that kind of pathetic mentality. So you cannot tell me that he didn't say that in the locker room.
There are a few high school coaches that would have that mentality.
Yes, I can tell you that, but okay, so he said that. So what does that mean?
I'll tell you what it means. I'll tell you what it means. It means that they're okay with small moral victories instead of trying to win basketball games, and they're okay, and they're making excuses.
It's a losing culture, and this is not the program for that.
If you think any coach is okay with losing, then
I didn't say he was okay with losing. I said he makes excuses.
You said a small moral victory, which is okay with losing. A moral victory.
Well, he said that, not me. He said that, not me. I didn't say he was okay with losing.
But you drawing that conclusion from that game.
I'm saying that he makes excuses, and it gives his team a bad mentality when they can end the game after getting blown out, saying that we outscored them in the second half.
Okay, so he should have said what?
You're saying what I think he should have said?
Yeah, because no matter what he said, you still have a problem with it.
No, not true. Not true. Dave Rice, I had a problem with Dave Rice, but never did I criticize anything he said after a game because he owned up to losses. If you get in front of the microphone, you say the areas you need to improve upon. Where if you want to say, well, we did good in this category, but I was unhappy with it, I don't have a problem with that. But don't say we're into small moral victories because you outscored Nevada by 5 when you were down 22 on your home court. You cannot defend that.
Who cares what he says to the media?
It's not just about his mentality.
Because the media reports it to the public.
Well, because that's what the media reports to the public.
Which creates a perception.
Okay. So perception is not reality, though, is it?
No, it's fake news.
I mean, I've covered a coach, Bill Belichick, who says all kinds of stuff to the public.
Bill Belichick also wins Super Bowls.
Right.
We're talking about what he says to the public.
Well, we're also talking about what he says in the locker room. Clearly, what Amari Hardy said was echoed.
You don't know. But you don't know.
I don't
You don't know.
All right. Well, I think I made my point.
How about this? And the fact that all the games before that, all the games that they had won, you're the person that says that he can't coach, he doesn't know how to make adjustments.
Never said he can't. Never said he can't coach. Never said that. In fact, you see, you put words in my mouth. What I say is he's not the right. Excuse me, he's not the right guy for the job. I think he could coach in another league. Go back to the WAC. I think he would win there. But this is the wrong guy for the job. I am very consistent.
You think he can't win here? Can he not win here?
I think he's the wrong guy for the job. And when you say win, define win.
Can he win here?
Define win. What is winning for you? Define win, and then I'll answer your question.
Can he win? Can he win a Mountain West Conference title? Can he take a team to a tournament?
So just taking the team to the tournament is winning to you. Not winning any games in the NCAA tournament.
Are you kidding me?
I'm asking you a question.
Are you? Yeah, of course.
Okay. No, I don't think he's that guy.
To go to the tournament?
No, I don't think. This is UNLV basketball, and you know what? We had Danny Tarkanian in here last week, and Danny made a very good point. He hears a lot of people say, well, we need to get back to the NCAA tournament. Well, obviously we need to get back, but you know what Danny said? We should be striving to be a better program to try to get to the Final Four. And I know that's easier said than done.
That these coaches want to get to the Final Four.
It's not that he doesn't.
Get to the Final Four.
It's not that he doesn't want to, Bry. It's not that
you can't get there.
It's not that he doesn't want to. It's that I don't think he's capable. At New Mexico State, he never won an NCAA tournament game. All the conference championships that Eddie won at New Mexico State, he never won one NCAA tournament game. How can you tell me that is not an alarming stat to you?
I've never heard of somebody criticize somebody for winning like 5 conference titles and making like 6 NCAA tournaments.
You've never heard anybody criticize a coach for never winning an NCAA tournament game. I find that hard to believe.
And he was at a lesser conference.
Well, I'll tell you somebody that did win games here.
Tell me how many teams from that conference have won an NCAA tournament game.
That's because the conference is atrocious, and it's a one-bid conference, and he recruited the same type of players there that he recruited here.
How many bids has the Mountain West Conference gotten how many years?
Well, I'll tell you what, when it was a really good conference, and that, by the way, that was
I'm talking about right now.
Right now, you're asking me.
In the last 10 years.
Right now, you're asking me. Well, I'll tell you one team that's not making the NCAA tournament. That's Marvin Menzies and UNLV.
No, but in the last 10 years, how many teams have made the tournament?
6 years ago, it was a 4-5 bid league. Do you not remember
10 years
that?
Ago.
Yeah.
10 years ago.
No,
yeah.
5 or 6 years ago.
Now.
5 or 6 years ago, it was a 4-bid league.
Right now. How many teams are making the tournament? One team?
Yeah, probably, because it's arguably one of the worst conferences in the country, which would give you more reason to say that
the tournament, it's an accomplishment.
I think that Fresno State's making the tournament this year.
How many teams in the Pac-12 made it last year? 2?
You're asking me if you make the tournament is it an accomplishment? Yes, but that's not the question you just asked me a minute ago. You said, is he the right guy for the job? And the reason why I say no.
No, I asked you, do you think that he can win here is what I asked you.
And I asked you define win, and you said getting to the tournament, which, by the way, we disagree with because I think most fans and most people in the athletic department would say just getting to the tournament isn't enough. But with that being said,
you said no. Hold on, you're putting words in my mouth. I did not say just getting to the tournament.
So define winning then. I mean, I asked you.
You have to be able to get to the tournament. But I'm not saying okay, you get to the tournament, okay, we're good. You made the tournament 1 year, okay, he's done for the rest of his coaching career. But first of all, I mean, right now. He has to get this team to the tournament. This team hasn't been to the tournament in how many years?
Well, I agree with you. That's certainly a step. I think there's steps that he hasn't been able to make. He's certainly not competing for the mountain. This is arguably one of the worst conferences in the country.
2 years.
2.5 years. This is his third year.
Stop with the first year stuff.
Well, that's just a fact. This is his third year. You know,
I know.
If you want to just wipe that clean and say that's fine, but come on.
Really?
Yeah.
That first year, this is not a coach that has that walked into that situation.
So what do you think? So you think he needs to come back? You think he deserves to come back? So what happens next year? What happens next year? What does he have to do next year?
I think next year they compete for a Mountain West Conference title.
Well,
and if they don't, then you consider getting rid of them for sure.
Define competing. Top 3 in the conference?
Absolutely.
So if he's not top 3 in the conference next year, you agree that they need to make a change?
Absolutely, and I've told you that before. Absolutely. Because think about it. At that point in time, your players that you've recruited and coached are juniors. And if you can't have a good team with juniors on your team, at least they won't have any seniors. They'll have one. Junior.
There you go again, though. I mean, I tried to make the point that
I just told you. If they have that, they should compete. You can't say that a team full of sophomores and freshmen are supposed to be.
Ohio State.
There's not a team. You sent me a list of coaches that are on a hot seat. All those coaches have upperclassmen
Not true. Ohio State had a bunch of underclassmen and only one senior, and they were the number 17th ranked team in the country. I could give you a bunch of other teams.
Is there a senior like an NBA player?
One senior on that team. One senior. So don't tell me that a young team can't win.
That senior is Keita Bates-Diop. He was drafted by the Timberwolves.
Yes.
Mr. Salmond.
Who's that?
Keita Bates-Diop.
Yeah.
Okay, of course. So you got an NBA player. That's your one senior. The one senior, that's the two seniors they have playing right now. You got Clyburn and you've got Robotham. Okay, so that I don't know if that equals an NBA player that's drafted.
No, but last year you got a bunch of guys that are making money right now playing basketball.
Brian, do you think that Robotham would see any minutes at all at a Power 5 school?
The way he's playing right now, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Even though he leads the Mountain West Conference in assists.
Right.
I can't imagine.
The bottom line is, the bottom line is, I'll try to spell it out and let the listeners decide. You think he deserves to come back one more year. You gave your reasons why, and I gave my reasons why I think you got to let him go at the end of the year. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out and see how it goes.
You got to go to commercial. Or why does he not need to come back next year? Because he didn't win at New Mexico State?
No, it has nothing to do.
I haven't heard any reasons why the crowd.
I'm giving you reasons. First of all, year one, you can say, well, he didn't have any players, and you're right. He didn't have a lot of talent. But I'll tell you one thing about year one, and anybody that covered that team in year one agrees with me on this when I say this. You cannot tell me that team got better. I don't care if they finished last in the conference. That to me, that's academic in year one. Did the team get better? And from the start of the year to the end of the year, a lot of those guys quitted them, and they didn't get better. Year two, you have the top recruiting class in the Mountain West Conference. The top recruiting class. Say what you want about Brandon McCoy, whether he's going to be an NBA player or not. He's getting paid to play basketball right now. You had Houston, who was healthy, a junior at the time. You had Johnson, who was playing.
You're playing in Division I basketball. But
Johnson, Houston averaged a lot had a good year last year.
And he was a highly ranked JUCO kid, 4-star kid.
Yes, and you had Johnson, who at one point was had a sophomore year was third in the country at Wisconsin-Milwaukee in assists. You have JoJo, who is now making money overseas. That is and you did have Clyburn as well. You had a pretty good lineup that should have won a lot more games. No excuse.
Good talent.
No excuse. Exactly. No excuse.
No one disagrees with that.
Okay, so year two.
The thing that you disagree, that you just don't realize is how do you have five guys that have never played together, and they need to be playing well? You know, like I know, at the end of the year, JoJo did not care about the rest of the team.
Okay.
He didn't care about the rest.
Well, you're making an assumption. You're making an assumption.
Anyway, Brandon, you can watch him. You can see that the team was disjointed. Brandon McCoy is thinking about the NBA, and I guarantee you that Johnson, he comes here. JoJo, he basically, I would assume that JoJo feels like this guy came to my team. He's a senior. He thinks he's.
I guarantee you that if Musselman is coaching that team, I guarantee you they compete for a Mountain West Conference title last year because Muss is a great basketball coach and he gets guys to. There's no wow. Musselman is just a better coach. He's going to win the Coach of the Year this year. He's a good coach, and there are better coaches out there that could have got that team last year to compete and play better.
There are better coaches that are out there. Whether or not that team would have been better with some other coach is debatable.
All right, let me make a wager. Let me make an on-air wager with you. And I know you're not a gambling guy, so it's going to be a verbal wager. If I'm wrong,
but if I'm involved, you're going to win, Brian. It's already been established. It's what happened with your friend.
I think in a month and a half from now, or I think in the off season, Marvin Menzies will not be our head coach. And if I'm wrong, I will on the air say you are brilliant. I am wrong and you are right. You know everything about basketball and I don't. But if you're wrong, you have to do the same for me if I'm right and you're wrong. I say he loses his job.
Well, I would say absolutely not. There's no reason. Why would I take that bet? One,
that's what we're talking about.
Game on.
No, listen. What we're talking about is whether or not
there should probably be dinner involved as well.
How about dinner? How about a dinner? How about that?
I know that most of the people feel the same way that you feel. There's a lot of people that feel the same
listen,
way.
I know you make the big bucks at Channel 3. You're telling me you can't take me out to dinner? Come on,
King Anchor, let's roll.
I'd be willing to bet you that. I'd bet you this. I'd bet you this.
Yes, let's hear it.
If you go ask any basketball player, coach, that, hey, two things. One, should you expect the team to be much better than they are with a bunch of sophomores and freshmen playing, i.e. the team this year, should they be better? And two,
how about just
last year's team, if you have a starting five that had never played together, should they have been better?
How about we oversimplify that question? And I just asked a bunch of coaches and players. Do you think Marvin Menzies is doing Do you think Marvin Menzies is doing a good job? And do you think he deserves to come back for year 4? Why don't we just oversimplify that question? I guarantee you, I will win that argument. I guarantee you.
Those are two different things.
It's part of coaching, man.
Different things.
All right, fair. Look, this is a good debate. I want to continue this debate with you. Promise me you'll come on with me again next week in studio. Will you be able to do that next week?
I don't know. You heard my daughter is making the most noise in the history of the world behind me.
Please tell your daughter.
my off days. I'm stuck with my beautiful little girl.
Please tell your daughters I apologize. Unfortunately, I have to end the show, Brian. I always appreciate it. Great debate. Let's do it again next week. All right, my man? I love you. You know that.
All right. I want you to come back with some better facts next week.
All right. Fair enough. Bryan Salmond, Channel 3.
Brian.
Dennis Silvers, thank you so much for taking some time to join us.
Pleasure.
That was a very lively debate. I'm sorry you weren't a part of that.
It was awesome.
Everybody have a great weekend. JD, he wouldn't take my bet. What are you going to do? I don't know. But Ken Thompson coming up next, everybody. If you missed it, check us out on Twitter at The Vegas Take, where we post everything. Ken Thompson, my man, coming up next. Thanks for joining us on The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN.